Hi guys, in today's video I am interviewing a financial advisor all about the FIRE movement. So I'm going to be asking questions like, what does he think of the 4% rule? What does he think of index investing? I think you're going to get so much from today's video. I've chatted recently to him on 3 separate occasions and every single time he's really blown my mind with information. I've learned so much from him already and he's just a really lovely guy all round. Before we get into the interview, I must introduce myself. My name's Gary. I run the channel Free Your Finance. I talk about investing, property and the journey towards financial independence. If this sounds like something you may wish to watch a little more about, don't forget you can hit the subscribe button below and maybe even give us a thumbs up. It really helps us. But now let's get into the interview. I really hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed recording it. Take care guys. Alright guys, today we have Indy joining us. He was formerly a financial advisor. He's just about to make a big move, so I'm really excited to chat to him on the channel. So thank you so much for coming on, Indy. Do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Gary, thanks for inviting me onto your channel. So, quick summary about me. I was in university during the big financial crisis in 2008, 2009. Studied business studies there, and my whole passion for investments and planning came from there. One of my modules was called financial markets, and the teacher, the lecturer, I hated her. I still don't like her, but she introduced us to, buying shares. We all opened dummy accounts, and for some reason I bought Amazon because I used to buy textbooks from there. If only Gary had bought those in real life, I would be a millionaire by now.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed buying shares and looking into things like ratios and things like that and what the companies were doing. When I graduated from university, I knew at this stage I wanted to get into investments because I really enjoyed it. Applying for jobs, it was really tough during 2011. I applied for a number of jobs and I couldn't really get a break. What happened was the year prior to that, in 2010, I had a cousin who lives in Vancouver in Canada, and he was now working as a bank manager for a large banking institution in Canada, in Vancouver. And he said to me, have you ever thought about coming to Vancouver? And I thought, no, it's too far. And he persuaded me to come visit him in 2011 when I finished university. So packed my bags and went to go stay with him for 2 weeks. I was blown away. It was a great place to live, great lifestyle. And I was 22 at the age, and he turned up picking me up in a £100,000 Mercedes convertible. And I thought, wow, he's doing something right. We really started to speak in depth about what he does and, potentially me moving there. So I moved in 2012, the summer, packed my bag with 3 suitcases and a bag full of dreams. That was it. I knew I was going to be successful, and I said to myself, the move has to work out. Worked out there. I got a job for the #1 bank in Canada as a kind of a cashier at first, and I just worked hard, done my exams, and within the space of 9 months, I was a financial advisor out there. My visa ran out, hence coming back to the UK. But that really gave me a passion for investing and personal finance. And I thought, being a financial advisor, I know that this is the right career for me. So I've been an advisor for a number of years now. It's a great job. I love helping people out, and I used to have some great relationships with my clients. That's what you do it for. When your clients ring you up and say thank you for allowing me to retire, or make things simple to understand, that's what I do it for.
Yeah, definitely. I met you through a sort of FIRE group, so to speak. For anyone that doesn't know, FIRE stands for Financial Independence Retire Early. I was wondering how you found the FIRE movement. Is this something you've known about for years and years since you were back in uni, or is it something you've discovered more recently?
Yeah, so it's kind of weird, Gary, because when I moved country, I had to be very, very frugal. So I watched my expenses because I couldn't always go out with my friends to eat dinner every day or every week because I didn't have the money for it.
Yeah.
Automatically, I've been very savvy with money. And that's probably kind of come from my dad as well. My parents were always frugal. We didn't have very much money growing up as well. And then when I was at university, I had student loans, and I kind of had it. I used to blow all of it. And then when I started to realize that you had to, work in and how much money you made, I was quite savvy with it. As a financial advisor, it's really important to keep on top of your knowledge. It's important to know what's going on, the trends, the markets, personal finance, how to help people. I do a lot of self-development as well. So I'm probably doing around 10 to 15 hours a week. So as of that, I listen to a lot of financial education podcasts, and I listened to one podcast where they had the people from Choose FI, which is a Canadian podcast.
Yeah.
It's interesting, they're talking about retiring early, and I thought, okay, subscribe to it. And there was one podcast from their channel that I listened to about a girl in her 30s that she was working and she retired at 31. And I thought, wow. I listened to it and I thought, it's so simple. Why are not more people understanding it? Why do you want to work till you're 65, 70, retire for 2, 3 years and die?
Yeah.
Life is so short nowadays. And I thought, this is a huge thing that should be shared with others as well. And I started to get more involved in listening to it more as well, speaking to kind of friends and family about it as well. And in my, being Indian, in our culture is work as much as you can, make as much money as you can, and pass it on to the next generation. And I think nowadays younger people are kind of changing away from that mindset to have experiences, life experiences, traveling, enjoying going out for experiences, doing things that you don't normally do as well. So that is kind of evolving through time as well. And I think the FIRE movement is here to stay as well. And more people are listening to it and somewhat adapting some of the rules to implement into their life as well.
Yeah. And again, it's like you've done this before, Indy, because you've brought me perfectly onto my next question, which is some of the rules that the sort of FIRE movement talk about, i.e. Being very heavily into index investing, things like the 4% withdrawal rate. As a professional financial advisor, do you see these sort of methods as good, solid ways of reaching financial independence, or do you see any sort of flaws in some of the methods that we use?
Yeah, so it's interesting because there's always a debate, active versus passive. It's been going on and it probably will go on forever as well. Index investing is good, I think, and it's simple to understand. When you explain it to someone, look, this is what you're doing, this is how it works, okay, great, they understand the concept of it as well. And I think it is a great way about it as well. People that don't want to get too heavily involved in investing or spend time understanding companies and researching, it is a simple way to do it as well. Those that have a bit more time can, if they want to, look at buying individual shares. So you can have maybe your main portfolio in an index fund and you could pick a number of handful of shares that you're looking at investing in. For example, let's say you liked Facebook, Amazon, Netflix and Google. You could maybe research them and maybe invest in those handful of shares. So you kind of got a broad spectrum of index investing, plus a core amount of there as well. Also with active investing as well, you're taking away that responsibility where you're paying a fund manager to ideally outperform the index and provide you with good returns as well. There is a scope for that as well. Active investing has done well. Certain fund managers have done well. They're able to, have a greater resources of knowledge and experience with teams of analysts to kind of understand the trends in the market and what's going on as well. So I do think there is an argument for both of them as well there. The one kind of downside of index investing, and it's only minimal, but it is kind of because you're investing in a huge basket of funds, you're going to have the top performing ones as well as the poor performing ones. Sure. So let's say you've got Facebook and Amazon doing really well, but then you've got oil stocks doing terrible. They're going to be lagging your portfolio. Whereas with active investing, you would like to believe that the fund manager understands this. So they would really invest in those poorer performing funds. So it would have some of a better performing portfolio over the short term as well. So moving on to the 4% rule, I like it as a rule of thumb personally. I think it's good as well. Looking at historic returns over a number of years, 4% does work. The only kind of caveat I put into that is it's important for each individual investor to understand their risk profile and capacity for loss. If someone wants 4% but they're very, very risk averse, again, that would throw an anomaly into the issue, because if they're not willing to take any risk at all or invest anything into equity markets, then that's going to be tough for them to perform as well. Yeah. And the last thing you want to do is invest into an index fund and have kind of large swings where the person is not happy with that and they're not sleeping at night either. So it's really about the individual understanding their risk profile as well as how much money, how much kind of loss can they afford to take. Yeah. Let's say, for example, they've invested £10,000 into a pension. They know that they can't touch it for 20, 30 years. Well, generally speaking, that person should be able to take a high level of capacity for loss because they can't touch that money. So they're willing to let that money swing. And we have had, there are a number of swings that we've had in previous years, and we will have a large amount of swings in the future as well because we don't know what's going to happen. So it's all down to the individual investor to understand what level of risk they're happy with to form that 4% rule of thumb as well.
Yeah, I think you've explained it absolutely perfectly. And with regards to the index funds, I agree completely with what you're saying. By index investing, you're sort of agreeing to average returns, aren't you? Because the fact that the higher performing stocks are going to be lowered by the lower performing stocks. But on the other hand, for someone like me who doesn't really have the knowledge and the expertise to really be researching these stocks, it gives me a simple access to the market, and it gives me a fairly okay return too. So
let's say you like Facebook, for example, as an argument's sake. You may be tempted to see, I like it. Let's see what I can do with it. Some people have play money, to speak. Let's say you had £400 and you just wanted to dabble in it to see what you could do. There are some people out there. At the moment, there are these Robinhood traders, as to speak, where people interest rates are terrible at the moment. There's no, maybe we are negative interest rates soon in the future. People are willing to dabble into equity markets to gain a better return, and some people are looking at individual stock investing to do that.
Funny enough, I do exactly that. So 99.9% of my investments are going into index investing every month, but I do dabble. I don't know if you're familiar with the Trading 212 platform. They have brought out this new thing called a pie, where you can basically choose your pie. So I have a tech pie, which is, I think I've got Netflix, Facebook, Amazon, Google, Microsoft. I think I've got 7 stocks in this pie, and I'm putting money in that I'm happy that if I lost it, I lost it. I'm happy with that. Anyway, on to the next question. So you actually, again, mentioned this earlier. You were explaining how things in the financial world can be quite a lot of jargon and quite confusing, whereas with the things and the books I've read about the FIRE movement, they make things sound so simple. So do you think it's still important to have a financial advisor or a financial professional helping you with your sort of personal finances?
So that's a really good question. I think to an extent, the jargon has been created by some big companies, predominantly large pension funds, to make it a bit mystical that you need to kind of use them. As with the age of the internet and, people doing blogs and videos nowadays, that has started to demystify as well. So it's interesting. I kind of think, there are kind of 5 life stages, I've just written them down here. So you've got early years, family and career building, pre-retirement, early retirement, and later retirement. So those 5 life stages, I feel, are really important. And those are the kind of years where you kind of would need specific one-off financial advice, just because you don't know what to do and you don't know what you don't know sometimes.
Yeah.
Whereas someone who's doing it day in, day out can say, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And by having that outside knowledge, it can sometimes help you as well. Just for example, if you've got children and you're looking to save for them, well, have you thought about setting up a junior ISA? And looking at a few of those major life events, when you're coming up to pre-retirement, have you thought about what retirement looks like for you? How much income do you need in retirement? How long do you plan on living for? What's your lifestyle like?
Yeah.
And again, moving on to later retirement, what does care look like for you in the future? Do you need care? How much is it going to cost you? How much money do you plan on maybe inheritance passing on to your children as well? So there's specific areas that I do feel people need specific advice for. But when you're in that accumulation phase, and you're just trying to amass as much wealth as possible, that's kind of relatively simple. Sometimes people need one-off advice in terms of what to do, but that accumulation is really the easy part of it. The decumulation part is where it gets complex, because you've also not just only what does retirement look like for you, you've also got the tax planning involved there. How is the easiest way to withdraw from your pension and pay low amounts of tax? And a lot of people don't know that. So for example, someone comes to me and says that, I can hypothetically plan it for them. If they've done it themselves, they'd probably be paying more amounts of tax just by me understanding what to do. They could maybe do it themselves by researching, but paying for someone as a one-off advice fee, it may be more valuable than doing it themselves or ultimately reading into it and then understanding what to do. The other thing as well with behind financial advisors, again, this is down to specific people as well. I would always, touch base with your clients to give them updates in terms of what's going on with investment. Some people don't really care. They just like to invest in index funds and leave it. It's important to utilize your wrappers every year. And again, I would assume people in the FIRE movement are already doing this, i.e. ISA contributions and pension contributions, they're maxing it every year. Those people that are not that inclined, having a financial advisor there, I would say, it's time to do this, it's time to do that. And again, also, I see things holistically. I like to really get down to the nitty-gritty details. And sometimes when I used to ask some of my clients deep personal questions about what retirement looks like for them, they didn't know.
No.
They were just kind of taken day by day as it came. And when you're really trying to dig into someone's thoughts and what their future looks like for them, they open up, and that's where you're able to kind of put a strategy in place for the longer term. Whereas if you're doing it yourself, you may not do that. And then sometimes having accountability by someone there, oh, we need to do this, we need to do that. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? So there's pros and cons for everything as well. It all depends on your specific circumstances and what you think you may need help with as well.
Yeah. I think by far the most important one that I'm certainly thinking about now, as you said, I find the accumulation side of my wealth fairly easy. You know, I'm trying to max out my ISA, I'm trying to get money in my SIP, I'm investing in property, and that's that. The thing that I'm more worried about is when I'm starting to reach retirement age and I'm starting to take money out of all these different things and working out, well, do I start with my ISA? Do I go to my SIP? Do I go to my property? Like, what do I do? So I can completely understand how you're saying that maybe the advice is more later in life, really, than, well, more essential anyway, later in life. But I am certainly starting to think, well, what about getting the wealth back out, you know, in the most tax efficient way? So it's interesting. Thanks for answering a sort of bit of a curveball, putting a question against your industry. So the next question I had was moving on to your relocation back to Canada. When you told me about this, I was really excited for you, because this is something I dream of doing one day. So yeah, how was it going to affect you sort of in your FIRE journey, so to speak? A cost increasing, currency risk, all this sort of thing. Is there any big concerns right now?
So it's interesting. I've thought this through a number of times. My initial, having lived there and worked there and understand the cost of living, I would say kind of in Vancouver, the cost of living is relatively the same as here. Mm-hmm. Some things are more expensive here, some things are cheaper there.
Indy, you don't have to say exactly where, but can you give us an idea of where you are right now so we know what we're comparing to?
Yes, I live in Hertfordshire.
Hertfordshire, great.
So I live in the commuter belt. I'm not too far from London as well. So cost of living in Canada varies very, very much. If you live in, for example, Calgary, your cost of living will be a lot cheaper there. Whereas Vancouver is known to be expensive.
Yeah.
Property is relatively expensive there as well. However, you're kind of paying to be in that province because the weather's great. It's got great cuisine. You've got great mountains. You've got lakes, and it's more for me about that lifestyle. I like that lifestyle, the West Coast lifestyle. There's not many places in the world where you can go snowboarding in the morning and sunbathing in the afternoon. So that was one law and factor behind wanting to kind of go back there as well. And I know the earnings potential over there as well. So I know I'm going to be doing the same job I'm doing over there. There are great earnings there as well. And my cousin, who I mentioned before, has also transitioned from being a bank manager to a financial advisor out there as well. So he's been doing this for over 5, 6, 7 years now as well. And he's opened my eyes up to the opportunity out there as well. So that was another factor. And the other thing is my partner's a nurse, and nurses relatively get paid maybe 2.5 times salary. Wow. So looking at that, assuming my salary was the same, hers would be more. Our cost of living would relatively be the same. We do plan on, buying a house in the future there. I would like to build my own house as well. So that would automatically, looking at it on the same level, having a higher amount of income, same level of expenditure, that would speed up our FI journey as well. Mm-hmm. Obviously, looking at buying a house, building a house, that may tweak things around in the future as well. But I kind of think not only looking at the end location of reaching FI, but the journey. And that journey for us is having a better lifestyle. Vancouver has top five places in the world to live in terms of standard of living as well.
Yeah.
So that's this volume. It's a great outdoor lifestyle there. So whilst we're on that FI journey, we are accumulating wealth and enjoying our life and journeys, and we'll do a lot of travel there as well. So that was another factor, and also that work-life balance. That's another thing that's really important to look at. You hear stories of people trying to amass a huge amount of wealth, but then don't enjoy it in a short period of time. We will enjoy our journey reaching FI, and when we get there as well, it'll be interesting to see how things play out.
Yeah, no, I think that is such a vital point to sort of highlight that the problem with the FIRE journey, sometimes it can almost look like a bit of a sort of strict camp, can't it? You can't do anything, you can't do that, you can't spend on that. And it is about balance, because you've got to be so careful spending sort of 20, 30 years of your life saving all this money and then not being able to enjoy it. So I do agree completely that it is about balance. And I've gone through many stages in life. I sort of started earning quite well as a young man. man, and I started spending loads. And so I've gone through that sort of lifestyle creep stage. Then I discovered FIRE, and I went through the whole being a tight ass stage. And now I'm trying to find the balance of somewhere in between, you know, and I think that's a vital point. So unfortunately, we're getting towards the end of my list of questions, which I can't believe how quickly this call has gone for me, because I've got so much from it. But I've just thought of like a sort of leaving question. I'm going to put you on the spot a bit. I was wondering if I appreciate you can't give financial advice, of course, but if you could give like 3 sort of main things for people to concentrate on that you would say to a client that you think they should think about with their finances, for example, keeping costs low or investing in an ISA, what would be 3 main tips you'd give?
I would say, I think definitely number 1 is expenditure. It doesn't matter how much you earn, you need to get your expenditure under control and be savvy with your money, and try and create a budget or something so you know how much money is coming in and out. That's really, really important, because that will help you in later life as well. So I think that's definitely the first one. The second one is start investing. Albert Einstein said compounding is one of the top 5 wonders of the world.
Yeah.
Because if you look at it, compounding, assuming let's say you start investing at 20 years old, even £100 a month, that will compound over a number of years. And before you know it, that's a huge benefit there as well. The third one there would be get into the habit of saving money every month.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you start saving, it doesn't matter about the investing. Once you start saving, you're in that mindset of, okay, I've just been paid X amount per month. I'm going to save 10, 20, 40% of my income automatically into a saving account.
Mm-hmm.
If you get into the habit of doing that from a young age, let's say you're just coming out of university, you're watching your expenditure, you've got a job, you're saving every single month 20% of your salary, you can then look to invest that. But the key is getting into those habits from a young age.
Yeah.
And it's one bugbear of mine that they don't teach financial education in school, because if they did, there's so many benefit factors of teaching people what's the difference between a debit card and a credit card. People don't know that. People rack up so much debt. So it's all about these really simple principle factors that anyone can incorporate. And, you know, Gary, I'm an advocate of financial education nowadays. And I think that, you know, when I do reach my FI journey in the future, I would want to try and help people out, help younger people out understand what money is, because money has a taboo topic nowadays. And if you get children from a young age understanding the concept and value of money, they will value it for the rest of their lives. And in school nowadays, they don't educate children on finances. And for me, if they did, everyone would be better financial education. They would be more savvy, they would invest more. And I think that would kind of help the economy out as well, because people will be doing the right things better rather than living on paycheck to paycheck with high amounts of debt as well. In my spare time, you know, I used to do a lot of networking events, and it's quite funny. If I come across someone at a networking event, I meet for a coffee, I would kind of say, you know, your children, what are you doing with those?
Yeah.
You know, do you teach them the value of education? Because if you can influence just one person's life, I kind of feel like I've done something good there.
Yeah. Everything you've said today, Indy, has I've wanted to lead it on to another question. I feel like we could have about another 10 calls. So maybe there's scope for me inviting you back on when you're in Canada, and we can find out how the move's gone.
I'm more than happy to do it, Gary, with you.
Thank you.
By all means, we can book it for another date as well.
I just want to say, I asked Indy to come on the channel and help. He gets nothing from this, you know. So him saying about he just wants to help people, I can vouch for that, you know. He said straight away, yes, Gary, I want to help you, like whatever you need, mate. So Indy, just thank you so much for your time. I've taken so much from this personally, so I hope that my watchers will get something from it. Good luck with your move, and as long as you don't mind, I'd love to have you back on in a couple of months and find out how it's gone.
Gary, it's been excellent today. Thank you as well. I really, I'm grateful for you inviting me on as well. I think by sharing knowledge and power between everyone, we can make the world a better place as well. And I would love to be on here. So once I'm settled in Vancouver and things are going on, I'd definitely love to be on here, and then we can take it from there then as well.
Brilliant. Take care, Indy.
Thank you.